Welcome to Season 3 of Beyond Kalidasia, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the Kalidasia Universe. I'm Jason, the creator of Legends of Kalidasia, and now Kalidasia Fleet Commander. As with Season 2, Season 3 is going to focus pretty heavily on tabletop game design. However, this time I'm going to take you from start to finish of my whole design process using Kalidasia Fleet Commander as an example. Now, this series here is the series I'm talking about on the Kickstarter project that's currently running for Kalidasia Fleet Commander. So while eventually all the episodes in Season 3 will be available for free to the general public, those of you who do back my Kickstarter will get early access to them, and you can find a link to the Kickstarter project in the show notes of this video. So with those little things out of the way, let's get started talking about what are the three fundamental forces, as I like to call them, that kind of influence how you start the design process of a tabletop game. Now, at the very beginning of the tabletop game design process, you probably have a bunch of ideas floating around your head, and it's time to start formulating them into some kind of concrete idea. As is the case of Kalidasia Fleet Commander, it was actually the combination of two different games I was trying to work on individually, but neither one of them quite fit. Another one really in my head, and they didn't all come together right. And eventually they got merged together, went through a big iteration, and you ended up with the thing that's on Kickstarter right now. So when you're in this part here, where you're just trying to take your ideas and start getting somewhere with them, I like to say there's three fundamental forces. It's kind of a bit of a science reference. Yes, I know there's four fundamental forces of the universe, blah, 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 etc., etc. But there's three fundamental forces that really affect this very initial part of the game design phase. And the first one is called the general concept. The general concept is exactly what it sounds like. It's a general concept of what your game is going to be. You don't need to worry about details at this point, because obviously the whole rest of the design process is all about figuring out details. What you want is a simple idea in your head such that as you add mechanics to the game, you can say, do these mechanics feel like they belong with a game I'm trying to create, yes or no? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having this general concept changed as your game development process goes on. I'm going to talk more about this later on, but Kalidasia Fleet Commander underwent a major change midway through the design process. It went from being a game of planetary system siege with multiple boards to a game of planetary siege where it focused on a single planet. Actually, my old co-host of the Tabletop Battlefield, Ryan, he helped me playtest some of these early versions, and he's got a video on one of his My Week in 8 Minute things he does, showing you this early version where we had multiple boards out. And you can find the link to that video in the show notes in case you're curious to see how Kalidasia Fleet Commander started out with, and then with the Cadre 4 battle report I did, where it ended up. And the reason why I ended up going through this major change is my game was violating the second major force, the most important thing is which it needs to be fun to play. It may seem obvious that a game is supposed to be fun to play, but it's not something that comes naturally as a side effect of just designing a game. It's something you really got to work at. That's why about 7 months into the development process of Kalidasia Fleet Commander, I made such a huge change to the design of the game. For those first 7 months, the game fulfilled the general concept like I was talking about in the first part of this video. But it just wasn't that fun to play. Sure, we had lots of little planets out here. There's lots of attacks going against different planets, blockading this one, blockading that one, taking over this moon, whatever it may be. But the gameplay is literally doing the same thing again and again and again and again for 2 hours, and it just wasn't fun. So I literally had to, okay, sit back, this isn't fun. And I made a major design shift to the single planet focus, these multiple corridors, and it became a lot better game, a lot more fun to play, and a lot more interesting of a game. So of course now when we're talking about if a game is fun to play, someone's got to be the judge of that. And the answer is, it's your game, you have to be the judge of that. Someone else really can't do that for you. Now, of course, you're going to be able to make an argument one way or another saying that certain types of games are going to appeal to a broader market, others are going to appeal to a more smaller market or narrow market, whatever you want to say. And in the end, if you create a game that's fun for you, one, you're going to be a lot more motivated to finish it, and two, if you create a game that's fun for you, there's other people out there who are going to find it to be fun as well. Granted, there's going to be other people out there who think the game's not fun to play, but that's just the way things are, and you don't want to let that discourage you. You create a game that's fun for you, other people, somebody somewhere is going to find it fun to play and will want to play it with you and eventually want to buy it from you. So with that, keep that always in mind. That's all about creating something that's fun to play. So when we get to the final fundamental force, it's the one that's a real constraint that you have to think about in your game design process, which is how long do you want the game to last? So when it comes to constraints and what you can and cannot do in your game, there's going to be a lot of little things you run into overall, but the big thing is how long do you want the gameplay to last? When you start adding more stuff to a game, whether it be more detailed mechanics, more things the player has to do, more choices, whatever it may be, more tactical options, that's going to increase the length that's going to take to play the game. Now, there's nothing wrong with a long game. I mean, there's games out there that are 4 or 8 hours that are a heck of a lot of fun to play. I've seen some people play a single game for a weekend, or this was guys who play a World War II naval game that say they've been playing the same game for 13 years. Whatever. It's what they do. I don't know if they're telling the truth, but regardless, the point is the length of the game doesn't really matter. I think you could probably make an argument that shorter games may have a more broad appeal to them, but you know what? There's plenty of people out there who enjoy playing 4-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour games of very detailed miniature warfare games. So you can find a market no matter how long you choose. It's just important to understand that this time constraint does really exist, and it's very easy to bump up against. So as you're adding mechanics to your game, you're going to be deciding not only based on this idea of the general concept of whether the mechanic fits in this general concept, but also if you start adding too much stuff, it's going to be very easy to push this barrier of how long it takes for the game to last, push further and further back, and it's going to slow things down a lot. So it's something you want to decide ahead of time, how long do you want your game to last, and pick and choose mechanics based on how well it fits into this time constraint, as well as your whole overall general concept. Well, that's it for the first episode. Hopefully this gives you some things to think about here as you start taking those ideas that are kind of floating around in your head and you can start formulating them into some more of a concrete idea that's eventually going to be the genesis of your own tabletop game. Now, the next episode of this series, what I'm going to do is show you some of the tools that I use to create what I call an alpha design kit. So you can start creating actual usable components for a game and start testing out real-world mechanics to see if these ideas you have here actually work for a game. So, once again, I'm Jason. If you have any more questions or comments about this series, you can send me an email at kalidasiagames@gmail.com. If you want to learn more about the Kalidasia Universe or how to support the Kickstarter project for Kalidasia Fleet Commander, you can find that all over our website at kalidasia.com, and you're going to find a link in the show notes. So with that, thanks for watching.